I was craving more like advice and tips on personal finance. And so that's something that I'm trying to do more, is just push out more of like the way that I think about personal finance, because I think it can be helpful the way, because we're all constantly having this thing of like, how much fiat do I hold? How much Bitcoin do I hold?
And price prediction, any thoughts?
I think I think the price is going to be so high that Bitcoin is the money.
Hey, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily. Do not tune out, tune in. We're preparing you for 2022 in this video. We have Bitcoin lead at Choice, Brian Harrington, also volunteer at OC Bitcoin Network, a Bitcoin meetup in Southern California. Today, we're talking about budgeting with Bitcoin, what you need to know going into 2022. Brian, how are you doing today?
What is up, guys? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Yeah, just trying to bring the energy. New Year's fire me up. I'm already just a very planning person, but as I see that blank slate, I just like continually like write down bullet points and write down bullet points. And so yeah, I brought you 4 tweets today that I just want to tee up how I'm thinking about the new year.
I love it. Guys, smash the like button, send this to your dad, send this to your wife, send this to whoever, because I don't know about you, but I stack Bitcoin. I have it's all relative, but I feel like I have a nice little chunk of Bitcoin. And it's just like, now what? I have the Bitcoin. Like, I just like, is there a point number 2?
Yep.
Brian, I'd love, like, what do you think?
Yes, no. And I love that you brought up like sending it to your parents and sending it to your spouse, send it to your partners, because I'm all about that. Like, families that stack Bitcoin together stack more. And so that's what I'm teeing off with here is we've all heard about the macroeconomics. We all understand the fundamentals. We all watch Altcoin Daily all the time, and we understand cryptocurrency investing. We're dialed in. We're dialed in. And now what I'm interested in is watching Bitcoin take ground in the real economy and take ground in people's minds and in their personal finances. And that involves our families. That involves our families and our spouses. And so, yeah, first tweet is, I just wanted to highlight this. I think Ben Cartwright here asked a brilliant question. This is off the back of this Preston Pish thread. Great thread on just kind of how we're measuring the growth of the stock market since 2009 wrong. And he corrects it and then shows how the growth is way lower than the top level numbers are predicting. And Ben says, this is all great info. Where do I go now? I've reached what I consider my max Bitcoin allocation. I'm dollar cost averaging, but what else can I do? And I said this, look, now's the time for us to work on using the tools that help Bitcoin move more and more into our personal finances. And you can look for ways to have Bitcoin replace fiat in your life. Like, literally go through your accounts and go through the financial apps that you use and go through the conversations you have with your everyone in your family about where you're buying dinner and like what you're doing for fun, just all those conversations, and just say, can Bitcoin replace fiat in this conversation, and just start to take ground. Because as we transition, as individuals transition, it'll help the whole world transition. I think that's a big point that I've been like thinking about more and more recently, is that we don't need the world to jump first. We, like the individuals, can jump first. And so that's what I believe is the now what. And so kind of trends that I believe are backing this up are this. Look, in 2020, the OC Bitcoin Network, we were able to sign up 1 restaurant to start taking Bitcoin. Okay. And then in 2021, what happened? Starbucks, Pizza Hut, and McDonald's are all taking Lightning Network. Like, that all happened in 2021. And so the fact that and they're doing that in El Salvador, and the fact that Fortune 500 companies are running Lightning Network payment processors in 2021, I think super speaks to, like, we all talk about this gradually then suddenly. And so I think, but we all kind of have a little bit different opinion on like when the suddenly is going to happen and what the suddenly is going to look like. And one of the things that my brain keeps coming back to is, if 3 Fortune 500 companies are already using Lightning payment processors in 2021, that's kind of a signal that the suddenly is going to come faster than I believe a lot of people give it credit for. So that's on businesses accepting Bitcoin. Okay, let's go on the people getting paid in Bitcoin. In 2019, Russell Okung, NFL player, famously tweeted out, like, pay me in Bitcoin. But he couldn't get it done that year. It took till the next year. And because the tools weren't there yet, the establishment wasn't willing to negotiate, wasn't able to do that. But in 2020, in 2021, what happened? Aaron Rodgers, one of the most famous players in the same league, tweets out, I'm being paid in Bitcoin. So then again, that's another signal that the suddenly is going to happen way faster than we're giving credit for. And not only is it possible for like famous people to be paid in Bitcoin, the direct deposit products for regular people got rolled out to everyone. So now almost everyone at scale can go type in their checking account and their routing account from multiple apps now and be paid in Bitcoin. So that's enough. So the proliferation of being paid in Bitcoin and businesses accepting Bitcoin leads to this. In 2022, I'm really trying to rethink, like Bitcoin has been savings, and I've been using Bitcoin like as my savings account for multiple years now. And that part is solid. Like you can go on Bitcoin Twitter, you can go on Bitcoin YouTube. Bitcoin has one savings. It's one savings very hard and is continuing to chunk down it. And the ramp at which people understand that Bitcoin and savings is getting into like high percentages of people understanding that. What I think those other signs are starting to show is how much people are moving over other elements of their personal finances into Bitcoin. And so in 2022, this is how I'm trying to structure my accounts.
Before we get into this, just to recap everything we just said, I guess my takeaway from the knowledge bombs you were dropping is, day to day, it could seem like nothing's really going on with Bitcoin. It's kind of boring, especially with the price volatility, just chopping around. But really, so many green flags have been popping up, whether it be Fortune 500 companies, using Bitcoin Lightning Network, whether it be, a series of NFL players saying, pay me in Bitcoin and I'm getting paid in Bitcoin. All of this stuff is, little green flags that shows us the suddenly is about to pop off. And, get ready for it. And I think a lot of people in our audience are saving in Bitcoin right now, but saving in Bitcoin, it's only getting more popular. And, eventually you have to think about, well, I have my one stack of Bitcoin. How do I level up my game? How do I, price my life in Satoshis rather than price it in fiat? Because you said on our show once that, maybe like the S&P, the stock market is up versus, fiat or seemingly, but if you price it in, I can't recall how to explain it, but if you price your life in fiat, basically it's like, you don't realize that, it's getting devalued, year after year. And if you start pricing your life in Bitcoin, that really like helps you save a lot better.
Yeah. No, fiat is like a bucket with a hole in it, and we're just leaking value. Like at a personal level, we're leaking value, at the company level, at the country level, at the county level. And so that's like what I'm starting to like think is happening more and more is that, how Bitcoin like moves in classes, like there's everyone that adopts in 2013, and then everyone that adopts in 2015, and then everyone in 2017, and how those groups get bigger and bigger. I think a lot of what happens on Twitter is people from different classes like talking past each other. And I think what's happening is that we're getting to the point where it's like people in each like kind of, this is super overgeneralizing, but it's like people in every class are kind of meeting others that are facing the same kind of questions that they're asking. And I think people are asking, hey, what should I do with this emergency fund that's like sitting in fiat? Or what should I do with this retirement account that's like sitting in fiat? And people are searching for tools. And so the fact that there's tools now to get paid in Bitcoin, or there's tools now to move your retirement account that's stuck at a place that doesn't let you invest in Bitcoin into Bitcoin, the tool, that's an overarching theme of 2021 in my brain, is that the tools are now here. The tools are here for if you're leaning into Bitcoin in one element of your life, but you're asking the now what, there's so many other tools out there. And so if you haven't played around with all of them, that's what I think is, I just think that trend is going to continue to take off in 2022, is people finding tools that solve little bits of their like personal finances.
I love it. Brian, let's jump into that tweet, man. I'm interested. It seems like you have like a few different buckets that you're putting your Bitcoin in.
Yeah. I want to see it. Yes. So I just want to use Bitcoin as my money. And I don't know how this will go next year, but I'm setting myself up mentally to do this. And because I haven't used the paycheck feature products yet for to like take my like paycheck in Bitcoin, but I want to. And I'm like talking to my family and whiteboarding it out and thinking about how a budget could look next year of like doing this, because to be honest, it comes from like a financial place, but it also comes from kind of an activism place. And it's like, I don't want to use fiat money anymore. Like, I don't want to just retweet these like stories of like negative things that are tied to fiat. Like, I actively want to lean into that. Like, I think I think Bitcoin is changing the world. And so I want to be a part of leaning into that. And I believe the tools are here that anyone can go on Bitcoin and move more and more of their life onto Bitcoin. I don't think it's just for cypherpunks. I don't think it's just for nomads. I don't think it's just for single people. Like, I think it is for people that have families and people that have mortgages and people that are just people, like, you know, sitting like on the other side of YouTube, as I often do so much. And so, yeah, I just wrote this down of like, I'm going to use a product that like lets me deposit my paycheck into Bitcoin, and I'm going to hold Bitcoin in Lightning wallets to use as my checking account. And then this one's easy. Like, I've been doing this one for a long time. Like, I use Casa, like, and I use Unchained, and I use these like savings products to protect the sats. And then like sats in the retirement account. This was a big one that switched for me this year. And I admitted this on Spaces the other day. Like, I started this year thinking that it was too hard and too complicated, and thinking that Fidelity was just going to turn it on and that I wouldn't have to switch anywhere else. And what has happened, if we've been watching the news, what happens with the banks? They only turn it on for rich people. And that's super annoying. And so there has to be custodians, and there has to be tools like Choice that allow people, if they have fiat stuck in investments that they're not happy with anymore, they can transfer them over and they can roll them over. And so the tools exist for that. And that's a big thing that like I learned this year. And then
what Brian's talking about is Choice IRA. You can use our affiliate link in the description, set up your retirement account, $50 in free Bitcoin. And I encourage everybody to follow Brian on Twitter, linked below, because he drops gems like this all the time. And if you have questions specifically about any of this stuff, don't waste his time. But if you got a quick question, he does answer, which is cool.
The DMs are always open. I've said that. Like, I'm not sure the establishment answers their DMs, but Bitcoiners do answer their DMs. And I love like talking to people, because this matters to me a lot, of like seeing people switch off the legacy apps and switch onto the Bitcoin apps. Yeah. And I'll here's the link right here of what it looks like. But yeah, so then here's an example of thinking in sats. And we were going there a little bit, but it's like, I actually am, from an investment perspective, like I actually do still like really believe in real estate. Like, I think there's a lot of things that Bitcoiners and people that invest in real estate can learn from each other, because I think the way that real estate investors have kind of just gotten like very favorable treatment, and they've almost be seen as like too big to fail and like kind of good for America and like things like that. I actually like believe that that's the direction that Bitcoin is going. Like, I do believe that Bitcoin is going to solve a lot of issues that the country's facing. And so the way that I'm doing that is I do invest in real estate. I do own my home, and I do have a rental property. And but when I think about the equity in those, I think about the equity in terms of sats. So like my wife and I have an Excel sheet, and we convert like that amount, the dollar amount on paper of the equity, like over into sats, so that we're just continuing to work that muscle of thinking about that. And then, so instead of holding like a fiat emergency fund in the new year, I'm going to just hold fiat lines of credit, like as the emergency fund. So that's kind of from a budgeting perspective, the way that I'm thinking about 2022.
I love it. And is there one of those that you set up first, like one that's easier to get started with? I mean, I think that obviously the retirement account is pretty easy with Choice.
Mm-hmm. These two for sure, like like saving in Bitcoin and retirement accounts in Bitcoin are for sure the easiest. And they're the ones that I'm the most familiar with. And like people can move in stages in this. Like if you're still working on your thesis of Bitcoin, and you're still researching cryptocurrency, and you're still like dabbling and dollar cost averaging in and like doing it, that's awesome. Like that's extremely awesome. And one thing that I think when I was like kind of trying to come up through Bitcoin Twitter and like find other Bitcoiners to follow, I was craving more like advice and tips on personal finance. And so that's something that I'm trying to do more, is just push out more of like the way that I think about personal finance. Because I think it can be helpful because we're all constantly having this thing of like, how much fiat do I hold? How much Bitcoin do I hold? And so there's not a one size fits all answer on that. But so savings of Bitcoin is the easiest. And that's why, so I'll just like move over to the retirement account real fast, because I promised you guys we would do a fast episode, but I love talking about personal finance. And so like, once you're dialed in on your savings thesis, and you realize that you still have money at Schwab, you still have money at Fidelity, you still have money at TD Ameritrade, it can be like finding a bucket of money that you can still move into Bitcoin if you want, because they aren't giving you the choice. And so that's what's awesome about that, is that you can transfer over penalty free. If it's in a 401k of a job you've already left, you can roll it over penalty free and it stays in that kind of account. And then you can get it into the kinds of investments that you want. So that's, yeah, if you have funds stuck in the legacy world, you have no like reason to hold them anymore if you don't want to, that's the cap on that.
Totally. Also, if you invest or trade crypto and you want to trade with zero capital gains tax, government lets you do it with zero capital gains tax with a choice or any retirement account.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't really have a question, but just my summation of like what we talked about. Me personally, I don't feel I have enough Bitcoin yet. I still feel, even though, you know, it's all relative, you hold some, oh my God, you wish you had some more just because there's such a finite supply. What I related to the most is the savings and anything that lets me accumulate more. Obviously, the other half of that is the spending for you. But I think one of the easiest things that anybody can do is just set up their life. You know, how can I be passively accumulating more Bitcoin?
Mm-hmm. We've been exploring this year, and there's this connection between the checking mindset and the like IRA mindset. And it's like, I've called it this, my IRA locked up the end game. Like, you know, we talked about how fast things are happening. 30 years from now, when I retire, I then have those Bitcoin that I'm going to distribute in kind and move into the Bitcoin economy. And I completely agree with like spending Bitcoin is just funny for some people, and we get like caught up in a little bit. I kind of have this thesis, and we'll see how it plays out next year, that if you're getting paid in Bitcoin and like living on Bitcoin, you're actually going to end the year with more Bitcoin than if you were kind of keeping a foot in both worlds. And I think the software is going to start automating that more and more. And so it's like the IRA is simple. You like can do that today and you lock up the end game. And the software of like doing the medium term, I think is going to come a long way in 2022.
I love it, guys. Again, I encourage everybody to follow Brian Harrington on Twitter below. Everybody check out Choice. And my final question, Brian, is as we're gearing up to 2022, we're even thinking into the 2020 decade. Do you have any predictions? Do you have any hot takes? Do you have any things you think might happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, look, my big idea and my just like bold, I guess, like not prediction, but just like the way I'm seeing the future is honestly, I don't buy that like this kind of dual path of like Bitcoin backed like fiat loans, like rolling people's lifestyle. I think those are transitionary tools. I don't believe that's the end game, because I actually think that producers like businesses and like employees, if we're already seeing this pay me in Bitcoin movement happening so fast in 2021, I just don't understand why a producer, why an NFL player in 2028 would be like, oh yeah, pay me in dollars from your Bitcoin backed loan. So I just think there is kind of going to be this like hammer that's going to come down where people are going to say, nope, I'll take the other one. Thank you very much.
And price prediction, any thoughts?
I think the price is going to be so high that Bitcoin is the money.
Damn. And I totally relate to what you're saying, that I think humans in general have trouble visualizing, not parabolic, but what's the exponential movements. You know, a lot of people can totally understand a linear move up, but if we look at the value of money, I think Turd Meester's even tweeted this out, you know, it goes a little bit and then all at once.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. All right, Brian, always awesome to have you on. Everybody check out Brian, linked below. Final thoughts for the Altcoin Daily audience.
That's it. Shout out to Altcoin Daily. Shout out to everyone who watches every day. Hope you had a great year. So plan for next year, and we'll see you then.